non-commercial community radio, or on the internet at www.wesufm.org.
You're listening to 88.1 FM WESU Middletown, a community service of Wesleyan University. Up next is The Business Buzz with Jeff Sherman, taking a look at innovative and cool technology and businesses right here in Connecticut. Catch The Business Buzz each and every Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. as part of our Monday through Friday 4 p.m. local talk block, only on 88.1 FM WESU Middletown.
The Business Buzz on WESU is proudly sponsored in part by Carlson and Demir, located right here in downtown Middletown. Carlson and Demir providing legal representation for victims of serious injury and for those facing criminal charges. On the web at carlsondemir.com, 860-819-1034.
Well, welcome to another edition of the Business Buzz. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, Marty Keena, Chris Calandra in Studio B. A lot to talk about, gentlemen, and our audience out there. A lot going on. I think I'd like to tee it up with or kick it off with the developments in Charlottesville and get your opinion, gentlemen, and our listening audience. You can call in at 860-685-7700, 685-7700. Well, gentlemen, my takeaway, or my initial, there's more to it than that, is that to me, and maybe you kick it off to you, Chris, then Marty, please explain to me, and I looked at the clip of the primarily young people completely outraged, like freaked out about Robert E. Lee or whatever. And I guess my question to you is, if you were 20 years old, do you think you might have other things to worry about? I mean, if a statue of Robert E. Lee is the thing that is freaking you out, your life is way too easy.
I find it surprising. I'd like to think about how I would be if I was 20 again, because that's fun, not because of this topic, but just in general.
Oh, yeah, I would agree with
that. But
I don't think I'd be freaking out about Robert E. Lee statues.
Yeah, so, you have Baltimore that's had an incredibly difficult couple of years with the police shootings and unrest and economically. And, this is what they're focused on in Baltimore.
Yeah, I love that, because that's what I'm hoping. Like, even with Rahm Emanuel in Chicago, Sanctuary, you got it's worse than Vietnam. It's worse than Afghanistan. You're worried about this. So Charlottesville, you're worried about. I don't understand. How does it even get to that point? They have, every city in America has tight budgets, cash strapped, social problems. What are you even thinking about a statue that has a relevancy of 150 years ago? Plus, there's complicated history. It's not binary, black and white.
And it's probably tucked in a park someplace that most people don't even notice. And let me just add that, I think, and we'll talk some about this, I want to get Marty's view, is that some of this is manufactured outrage, I think. Donald Trump's been in office a few months now. That Robert E. Lee statue and all those other statues that are so offensive, I'm pretty sure they were there for the previous 8 years when President Obama was in office.
I believe they were probably there 60 years, yes.
And so how is this so important that we need to get rid of these statues now? But it wasn't an issue just a few months ago. I never even heard of it before. I am not a fan of Robert E. Lee. I could really give a crap either way. It just seems there's a whole lot of manufactured. This is part of an overall strategy, and not everything is real that you see and hear.
Organic. Yes, Marty, your view?
Well, I think it's organic from a group of people who are fostering the hate and the bigotry and the intolerance that in a lot of ways people equate as emblematic on those monuments. And so maybe it's not Robert E. Lee personally, but he did represent a cause that our country has been trying to deal with since the end of the Civil War, and obviously we've not dealt with it very well, because here we are talking about it here, 2017. Hate is not something that should be relative to any kind of political movement here in the United States. That's not what we're about. And having been a graduate and being a proud graduate of the University of Virginia and watching those videos, not only was I heartbroken for our country, but I was heartbroken for the city and for all of those that are associated with the university that have nothing to do with the hate and the vision that was represented by those people that was marching through the grounds.
So why now?
Because the previous administration was able to talk to tolerance and acceptance and grieving for those who had experienced injustice, black, white, young, old, Jew, Christian, didn't matter. In this particular case, there seems to be a focus on white supremacy. There seems to be a conclusion that whatever they thought that they had for a country has been lost. Well, they don't understand that we are a pluralistic country, and that's what's made us great. And unfortunately, the behaviors of those people have started to tear at that fabric.
With the white supremacy issue, I don't know. To me, I think that's manufactured. I haven't seen that. Have you in the administration, Chris?
No.
They just got rid of the guy who was the head of it today, so I don't understand how you don't see it.
Okay, why do you? Okay, what leads you to believe that Steve Bannon is a white supremacist?
Well, because he was the leader of a online site that propagates that kind of.
Do you ever look at Breitbart? No.
No.
Okay, there you go.
I read Breitbart every day.
Yeah, so do I.
And I'm not saying I agree with everything that's on there or I like everything that's on there, but I don't believe I'm a racist because I read it, and I don't think it's a racist
reading
news
something doesn't
site.
mean that your behavior is going to change.
But
in that regard.
I've never saw anything there that indicated that it's friendly to Nazis or white supremacists or anything of the like. I think
that's a website. You know, the people who are reading that, other than yourself, who may be level-headed, are looking at those kinds of things in order to justify some of the things that are organic within them, which is the hate and intolerance.
But there's no hate on. Okay.
I never. Now listen. I also read Slate. I read the Huffington Post.
Yeah, you get a wide variety of
which are the
opinions,
opposite end of the spectrum. So I would just say, and with all due respect, Marty, if you want to slam a particular website, maybe you ought to just read it a little bit so that you're not taking it because somebody else in the media says it's a bad, nasty, white supremacist site. Maybe you ought to check it out for yourself because I read it every day and I've never seen it.
Actually, I think there's a lot of humor in it.
Yeah.
90% of it is actually humor.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's things that, like any site, anything. I mean, it's not, I look at a number of sites like you do, and I take a little bit of information from that, others, and I'm good to go. I don't internalize everything they say.
Are some of the articles on there outrageous where you say that's a bit much? But I'm saying
they're humorous. Yeah, they're meant to be
And then same thing on Huffington Post. There's some things that I read on Huffington Post. I say, wow, that's thought-provoking. I'm surprised I agree with it. Other times, no, that is not what I agree with whatsoever. And sometimes it's, that's ridiculous and slanted news.
Now we're going to give something, I agree, to Marty that I'm going to give him some red meat now.
Yeah.
Okay? And I have to say that I believe in everything that Trump had to say. I believed in his message, his platform. But there is something a little unhinged with him, Marty. I know this is really a leap for you, but do you agree?
Well, I mean, as an American, I'm concerned. Absolutely. I think when you start to see the kinds of ongoing back and forth with ideas and non-ideas and blame and who's he not blaming, I don't trust the man. I think that there is some unhinged. The fact that there are people closer to him that are just saying the same thing. I'm just this little guy here in Studio B, watching what I can watch and trying to understand what I can understand. And by no means am I an expert in any of it. I'm just speaking from my heart. But when I watch what I'm seeing, it's almost like the Truman Show. When I watch that movie and I go, oh, my God, I know it's a repetition of every day, but it's kind of like what we're seeing. We're seeing a repetition of every day, but the plot changes every 24 minutes rather than 24 hours. And it's not just our TVs that are on. It's on around the world. And I think our status as a country has really become a little bit more tainted because of it, because of the lack of leadership, whether it's moralistic
domestically. Well, let's stick to the point. I think that, Chris, I would say globally, I think we're in better shape than we were. Would you agree with that? I mean,
I would agree with that. Last week and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but last week we talked a lot about North Korea. During the week, the leader of North Korea said that he's reconsidered and he's decided he's not going to bomb Guam at this point.
Okay. Yep.
So it's hard to not chalk that up as a win. Now, do the media and Trump's opponents say, hey, we don't agree with him on 99%, but seems like things worked out well so far? No, there's no credit given. They just move on. It leaves the front page and they move on to something else. It's so unfair.
But one thing, someone that does believe in many of what Trump, many of the platforms that Trump ran on, I just find it perplexing and amazing that this billionaire, supposedly unbelievable business person, it's like, okay, for instance, Charlottesville, okay. Yes, could he have been right that there was many sides to the issue? That he probably was, right? But hey, genius, just get up there and say, the person that was killed, it's a tragedy. We all have a right to speak, and we don't tolerate Nazis and racists. End of story, it ends. But to get into a debate on who was right and then to rehash it's like, oh my, please stop it. It's like he does this all the time. He takes 2 steps forward, 8 steps back. He gives so much ammunition to the media. It's just like, you shut up. Just do me a favor and please shut up. Not him.
Do you think that if he had said something different, that the media would have said, hey, that was a great
No, they're never going to say. They're never going to say great. I mean,
they would have said appropriate, expected.
They would have said,
and those would have been fine.
But no, it would have been immediately followed up. But
oh no, there's always going to be a but. But now he's putting gasoline on it. Yes, were there professional protesters on the other side? Yes, there were. It's not the time to shut up. So, there's a lot of times in business you have to say something. Yeah, we're moving forward in a great direction. Blah blah blah. You might not even believe it, but just shut up and do it. It's like God. And then he does it in the thing at the Trump Tower. You're like, I really believe his administration is in real risk of just unraveling.
No.
Okay, and that's why. I mean, listen, I don't want it to. But I don't see this how it ends well. I'm not talking about, Marty's all worried about the globe and all. I think it was a lot worse under Obama because no one ever, feared the guy at all.
Let's talk about a guy like Cohen, right? Cohen there, his daughter and son-in-law, right? You're talking about 3 people very close to the president with strong Jewish faith, right?
Yes.
I don't get it. I mean, I don't get it.
I don't know. What do you mean you don't get? What about the Jewish thing?
Well, tell me. The fact that he's aligning himself with groups of people.
Who's he aligning himself with?
Yeah,
I don't know what that's all this racism. Trump is better for the Jews in Israel exponentially than Obama. That's just a fact. So that's like, and this Jew, his son-in-law is Jewish. I don't know.
That's what I don't understand. Why he can't talk out about.
That's why.
But I think
yes, I'm just shaking your head. It's true.
Do you want to invite some callers to call in?
Yes, call in.
We're having a great debate.
Do that. 860. Give the number, Chris.
860-685-7700 here at the Buzz.
Yes, 860-685-7700 and join in on the discussion.
So if I could, just to set
the
the
stage.
Chris. So this is the president's statement that caused this uproar, okay? This is the statement. Allow me just a second. We condemn in the strongest, this is Donald Trump now, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides, It's been going on for a long time in our country. Not Donald Trump, not Barack Obama. It's been going on for a very long time. It has no place in America. No citizen should ever fear for their safety and security in our society. And no child should ever be afraid to go outside and play or be with their parents and have a good time. The hate and division must stop, and it must stop right now.
Okay, no. You know the great point, because if you listen to the press, and Chris, you have a great point. You really do. Because if you listen to the press at that particular point in time, it was like he didn't do enough. It was awful. I'm not talking about that one. That was press created. I agree with you.
Right.
I'm talking about in the Trump Tower getting in a whole debate about, there's people on, there's the other side was just as bad. even if they were, just shut up.
So that was the Monday comment,
No,
right? And then there was supposedly the Tuesday comment. And
No,
then
that was
the Wednesday
his
comment.
first comment.
Right.
And he got
And then he
called to the
backtracked.
carpet. He got called to the carpet because he said on many, many sides, and he didn't specifically say white supremacists, Nazis.
Right, because he was equating those that had the Nazi aspirations with those who were anti-Nazi.
But I don't. You see, I don't understand that thinking. If you say all violence, all bigotry, all racism,
there is
that all hate needs to end.
There is nothing wrong with that statement.
That
Chris.
and so
It was a second. It was, and you had a great point. So I'm giving you kudos.
thank you.
No, seriously, yes. But I think the Trump Tower thing was just okay. The media is out to get him because it's left wing driven, right? He could say, all people are great and born beautiful, and that's not good enough. Okay,
Yes.
But the Trump Tower thing was just stupid.
Right. He was going down there to talk about infrastructure, which is something that we all would love to hear about. I mean, there's been a lot of movement on that. I think, was it the Blackstone Group had just put in $1 zillion to get involved in all of that, and they were looking to get, some of the things going. I know New York's already got stuff going at Penn Station. But it was the fact that there is hate in the air. I mean, this nationalist, populist movement is not necessarily drawing people out by name, but they're giving groups with the alt-right license to feel comfortable to come out and to spew.
we have a caller.
Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So tell me what you think.
Tom from Manchester. I'm of African-American descent. I think I may have called in one time last year. And speaking up on President Trump, he's entitled to his opinion, but sometimes I think he can go off script with the
That's what I'm
reading.
saying, yeah.
And I guess getting back to the basic at hand, when you mentioned about infrastructure, we got to get back to, building back America. But as for what happened in Chancellorsville, I'm not condoning it, violence on both sides. And being a person of color, you mentioned the Confederacy. As I said on camera one time in a meeting in Manchester, I will never honor that Confederate battle flag. I call it a flag of treason. Their pillar of their economy was to maintain slavery. That was the third on the list, and they still wanted to continue it after the Civil War had ended. After Appomattox, there was 3 other surrenders. Jefferson Davis still wanted to continue guerrilla-style warfare. A few of them became expatriates. I think there's a colony down in east coast of Brazil that they still practice, Confederate, customs. So I know we can do much better, but when I hear Richard Spencer say this is a white man's country, as a man of color, no, it isn't. It's a country for all of us, and they all don't wear the sheets, because I'm concerned sometimes with Rush Limbaugh, Ann Coulter, Michael Savage too, on the radio ears, and on the left sometimes too. It can come from extremes rather than being pulled apart. Can we come together? Because right now, it was 50 years when they had the current commission. I was just a preteen at that time in '67 with the movie Detroit and riots, and after Dr. King's assassination, which would be 50 years next April of next year, we've achieved, but I feel like sometimes we're being pulled backwards, and we're all in this together, no matter who's impoverished, black, white. I'm not taking anything against you or affirmative action or whatever the case may be with crime. It's all interrelated because you have white-collar crime. So I'm at the point right now we can really do better, and we're a beacon of democracy, but the way it's going right now, it just feel like we're on a seesaw. And I admit, we have a new regime in there, and they're doing what they can, but it's not power and money over people's lives and safety. It's got to do with basic being a basic humanity and civility, not hostility. And I don't know, I just we could be further along. I've got 3 college degrees, and I believe in America, but the class is, I guess, half full, and I'm just hoping with the president and his staff, we can just kind of move on, cut down the hyperbole. And on the other side of the Democrats, we've got to regroup and think of a better way of doing things and outreach. And I just feel that we got to stop the the violence and terrorism here, not just Islamic terrorism, but I am concerned with the Klan and others when I hear this rhetoric, and I'm hoping things go better in Boston, that cooler heads will prevail and they'll have their say, and hopefully the counter protest will be away, and maybe Monday when the clips would come, and won't be with lens of darkness, but also light on that Tuesday. So,
thanks
thank you. Well, I believe in it, and I'm a UConn grad, and it's a good state to live here in Connecticut, because we, in our world, our country's history, and like you said, we hope the best could come, and hope that Hartford won't go under, or that they won't become bankrupt, because that's our capital city, and we all got to pull together.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, caller.
So, great caller. We
Great
invite
caller.
other callers to call in at 860-685-7700, 685-7700. Now, Chris, I want to ask you a question. Many on the left, have this assertion that it's white nationalism and racism and so on and so forth. Did you ever hear any pushback when President Obama had Al Sharpton, a known anti-Semite racist, called for the killing of whites, Black Lives Matter at the White House several times? Anything in the press about that?
I don't think so, and that's why I think Donald Trump's statement was much more appropriate than he's given credit for. I don't like to hate on either side. I don't like the neo-Nazis, the white nationalists. I detest that. I abhor that. It's anti-American. But I've also seen over these last couple of months other elements of society that I detest just as much, that I think are not constructive, not helping the country, including the bad behavior out in Berkeley, where they had riots and they did damage and they scared people from showing up. I think there's too much of this going on, and I don't care politically.
Well, let me just interject. I'm more concerned with the thought police on the left than I am with the, if you will, alt-right. I mean, taking down statues. Okay, you can point to Robert E. Lee, whatever. Like I said, I don't really care. Okay, we go knock down a statue if you got nothing better to do. Then where does it stop? Thomas Jefferson, he had slaves.
Sure. And in Chicago, they defaced Abraham Lincoln statue.
So one of the big things on any Bolshevik would do is erase history.
Yes.
And I wonder if that's not part of the alt-left's agenda here.
Well, I think there is some history that we would like to eliminate, and one of those was Nazism. We spent tens of thousands of lives, millions of lives in World War II. Family members that we never got a chance to meet, to fight against Nazism. And now we see Nazis riding their wave through the University of Virginia.
They protested for years, Marty. It's not the first time they protested.
I can't believe you, as a Jew, are even going from that direction.
Yes,
the fact that they
Marty,
were going
because they've been doing that in 1978 in Stokey, Illinois. It's not anything.
And they were shut down.
Oh, yeah, well,
now we're trying to shut them down here.
But do you honestly think, Marty, and I appreciate your emotion, and we're mostly on the same time, do you honestly believe that Donald Trump was elected and people that were not involved in this kind of bad behavior, lousy groups, hate groups, the whole thing on the white side of anti-Semitism, Nazism. Do you think all of a sudden these people decided they were going to join up and that they were going to rally to this cause because their guy got in office? No.
I didn't say that. They didn't join the team.
To Jeff's
this
point,
team that was already made.
To Jeff's point, this very small minority of bad people have been around for a long time.
Right, in the
shadows. And the media is manipulating the situation and giving highlight to these, I was going to say a-holes, but can't say that, I don't think. But the point is they've always existed, and I still don't see the link between these crazies, bad people that are anti-American, we can't say that enough, are
like
linked with the administration.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just someone that's not really digging on Nazism. They've had protests, I think, since I was a kid. I don't know. They've had,
the Klan has existed through all of our lives.
Exactly. So let's see what the caller has to say. Caller, are you there?
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen.
So
how
what
are
say you? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, get your history straight. They didn't march in Skokie. They were going to, but they never actually did, even though they were given a permit to.
Okay.
March. All right, so that's neither here nor there. They've been around forever. They're a very tiny fragment of a speck on the map. It's not a big deal, but remember what the media is doing. That's the media's goal, to blow this thing up so people like you guys and everybody else talks about it. How about Yale University? Does everyone remember Elihu Yale and where he came from and what his background was? Do you think they'd actually change the name of Yale University?
So what was the background of Yale University?
I'm going to let you guys look that up, and I bet you could trace.
Well, maybe maybe they might change the name. What do you mean? They're
not. That's the height of liberalism at Yale. But they're trying to forget that history there, and the guy that whose name is on that college had deep.
So you think the media is trying to stoke this racial?
Oh, of course they are.
And
what it'll be something else.
But everything needs an objective. What is the objective here?
You guys know what that is.
Well,
everybody knows what that is.
You think
they've been foaming at the mouth since the president was elected.
So it's to bring down Trump.
Yeah, they'll connect that. They'll connect the bombings in Barcelona, or the trucks in Barcelona killing people, the stabbings in Finland today. They'll find a way to connect that to Trump. Heck, Wolf Blitzer, the regaled Wolf Blitzer on CNN last night was trying to connect.
You actually heard that. He actually tried to connect. Did you hear this, Chris?
No, tell us.
He tried to connect the truck killings in Barcelona with Trump and Charlottesville.
Where he said it was
using the same tactics as the alt-right in Virginia. I mean, that's absurd. But this is what is going on, and that's why people have to step away, look carefully, ask questions, understand what's going on. And, these people are not reporters. They're now carrying an agenda, and they've been doing that, and it's not helping anybody.
When do you think it started? Because I have an idea.
Oh, it's been going on for decades.
I would say it started with Nixon.
No, it's been going on before that. But now
it's off the hook because they have a license to do that.
And there's nobody even asking questions anymore. And when you have editors and reporters who will change things and will not report things truthfully, then you have a problem. And that's when the American public suffers. The media was supposed to defend us from government and wrongdoing out there. And
can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Because I thought Chris, when he read Trump's reaction to the Charlottesville killing, you know something? I got to be honest with you. I kind of got wrapped up in the media hoopla, thinking, "Oh, he made a mistake." And then when I listened to Chris, I'm like, "What else could he have said?" So, doesn't it really point to how the media can twist things around? I mean, after listening to what Chris said, I'm like, "What the heck's he going to say? What else could he have said?"
No, and both sides were at fault with this. The biggest fault lies with the police, who didn't prepare accordingly. You should have had people opposite sides of the street with nobody crossing over, and they churned that thing up just the way it was. And you can point fingers any way you want, but it takes two to tango, and they were both dancing.
Now, do you think Trump survives the 4 years, or do you think it's?
Oh, who knows? They're trying to do whatever they can do to get him out of there. Whether he has a heart attack or just says, "Screw it, I'm out of here." Who knows? The guy has some cojones, that's for darn sure. And
what do you think about his agenda? The press and the left hates the most.
Well, I don't know. I think he's. If I was him, I'd keep my mouth shut, get my head down, go to work. I think Twitter is for children or people that just don't have a life. Get away from that stuff. Get to work and stop this childish behavior. And the same to the media. Go to work and do some real work for a change.
Thanks.
Anyway, gentlemen, I'll let you go. Have a good afternoon and carry on.
Thank you very much.
You.
So, so I'll let you, Marty, react to the caller. Any thoughts?
Well, everybody's going to have their opinion. My biggest concern, and I know there's going to be violence on both sides, this is going to be emblematic of this kind of confrontation between these two waves of thinking. The whole idea of this open carry law. I mean, did you see some of these people walking down the Charlottesville Mall dressed as if they were walking down Fallujah with their camo, and they had their, M16s?
Sure.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And it was such an interest in the background, you see UVA kids with their Go Who's T-shirts that are there to, protest and yell and maybe flip the bird. But these other guys, they're ready to go door to door. And that in itself, I mean, Vice News did an incredible piece the other night, which I believe if anybody just went to Vice News and went to the episode of the Charlottesville March, this young woman embedded herself with the right-wing marchers as they were preparing as well as walking through the town. And some of the things that they're quoted is quite chilling. And I'm afraid that the previous caller's plea for, somewhat of a violent-free protest in Boston might go upon deaf ears.
Nobody is rooting for the people that were the neo-Nazis white nationalist, white supremacist, the amount of support they have in this country, like the previous caller said, is infinitesimal. So you could keep pointing out about that, Marty. You could keep pointing it out, but hardly anybody supports those people.
Now that I agree with Chris, because it's like, I'm watching this. You got some friggin' dumbasses that like these idiots, right? The country's moved so far beyond this. It's like stoking something. They're almost like caricatures of themselves.
Yes.
It's like a joke. No one takes them seriously. They're idiots.
And what I would say, though, is when you have these clashes, I don't think I am rooting for either side. It's not because I have a stake in the Robert E. Lee statue or the Confederate flag, which I am not a fan of. But I see you have the fringes on the left and the fringes on the right are both emboldened to behave badly. And I think what we ought to do as Americans, the vast middle needs to push out against the edges and not let the fringes move towards the middle.
That is well said.
I'll agree with that.
I agree with that. I think, and during the Obama administration, you had Black Lives Matter. They were a radical group too.
When you had earlier this year, you had extremists in Berkeley doing damage to property and fire, wearing masks in public. And again, the police just sat by. I don't agree with those people, and I think that's who the president was talking about. And I don't agree with the neo-Nazi, those people either. So when you have the clash down there and you look at those people, I don't find that most Americans, the vast majority of Americans, are not and shouldn't be rooting for either side.
Now, question, do you think this statue dismembering, whatever you want to call it, is just going to be now the left's got something that's working? Do you think it's going to be a weekly event?
They'll find something else. I mean, there's
a lot of statues,
right.
Chris.
Well, notice that the Russia story dropped off the page. You don't hear anything about that because...
Now you got this to run with.
You have this. So now we have a president who is a Nazi, Jew-hating Nazi, who also is a Russian collusionist. Mm-hmm. So they'll find something else next time. I just think that people...
Do you want to give the number to people who call in, Chris?
860-685-7700.
860
Thank you, Marty, for picking me up.
7700. 860-685-7700. The views on this program are the views of the broadcasters and the Buzz, but not WESU or Wesleyan University. You can call in our listening audience at 860-685-7700, 685-7700. Now we have a caller. So
let me just throw out a little statistic that I found, a little tidbit. I don't know if it's a statistic, but let me just read it verbatim. A variety of militia groups around the country regard themselves as 3%ers. The term comes from their belief, debunked by historians, that only 3% of the American colonists fought in the revolution. So they're aligning themselves with this mentality that they're fighting for their country, and they think, it only happened 3% of the people did it the last time. So, and that's us. So, we're going to be known as the 3%ers.
Yeah, they're outlandish. They are a distinct minority. They've been around. The militia roles supposedly swelled during the Obama administration. Maybe that's true or not, but you're still talking about if you're at 0.5% and you have a 20% increase, you only go to 0.6%. The numbers are so infinitesimal, and it's a small minority in this country that are extremist, extreme hate, bigotry.
Let's see what our caller has to say. Caller, are you there? We thought that was going to... Sorry about that. He was on the go, so I had to... my fault.
Well, hopefully we could have another caller join in. We had two great callers so far.
860-685-7700, 685-7700.
One of the things about the monuments, Jeff, is that, they did not go up like 4 years after the Confederacy was failed. This is something that was built up during the 1960s as there was this new reemergence of the quote-unquote New South. I mean, a lot of people would refer to it it as the Jim Crow South. But a lot of this monument stuff was being done by, the Daughters of the Confederacy. I mean, it was more of trying to emulate and to support and to provide some type of a new narrative for the Confederacy. And it's really a relatively, I think, historically new thing. So it really isn't something that, was put up there as saying, okay, here's an important part of history, and let's give homage to some of these great leaders that had we not had a Civil War, would have been great leaders for our country. The Stonewall Jacksons, the Robert E. Lees, who were like number 1 and 2 in their class at West Point. It's a tragedy. It's a part of our history. We cannot erase that. But some of the emblems that we put up there are pretty much gone as far as us as a society to connect with.
Okay, but do you agree that it's okay for individuals to go and deface the statues and tear the statues down, or is that a break from a civilized society?
No, vandalism is never.
Okay, good.
But at the same time, a guy who goes to work in the morning for Public Works down in Baton Rouge shouldn't have to feel like he has to put on Kevlar in the morning to go and do his job when the governor told him, take the statue down.
But why do you think we're defending the statues? I mean, have you ever visited a Confederate statue when you were in the South?
Yes, I have.
I'm in Florida all the time. I go to Disney. I don't go to see a statue.
Actually, if you want my opinion, I have. I'm not a Civil War buff. I have no interest in the South. I have no interest in. Obviously, anyone who's sane would know that slavery was not actually a high water mark for American history. But something, history's complicated, and some of these people had let's just say an interesting path.
Yes.
Past, like Robert E. Lee. Yeah, you could say a lot of bad things, but you could say a lot of good things. He helped bring the country together after the war. So if you can start taking down history, it's a very juvenile action.
It's very, very difficult to do. You know what? There were 11 states in the Confederacy.
Yeah.
There's 31 states have Confederate monuments.
That's a little crazy. But, if you take it to the extreme, I know you are too, Marty. I'm a huge history buff, and I went recently to the Gettysburg Battlefield, which is an awesome experience, American history. But when I look at the statues of the Union regiments that fought and won the day, I just have awesome respect. I mean, it's just an amazing experience being there. But when I go to the Southern lines and I see the Mississippi and Alabama regiments that fought there, I can honor them too, I feel, without being racist. It doesn't mean that I defended the South or the Confederacy or that I'm wearing, the Confederate flag. But I could go there and pay homage.
That even goes into the whole history of the Civil War.
But you're not taking your family.
That was all complicated as well, because it wasn't just about slavery. There was many issues between the North and the South. So to make it just a polar thing, it was about slavery. That was an aspect, a big aspect of the war, but not the aspect of the war.
Right.
So when you have people like Robert E. Lee, for instance, it was also a struggle between what kind of country we were going to be, agrarian or industrial. I mean, it's not a big history lesson. So many of these people, there's nuances. So you can start, when you get to the point that because things offend you, you can pull it down, then we'll be left with these statues of just like a round thing, and you can imagine who you want on it, because we don't want to offend anyone, never, especially on the left. That would be outrageous. So anyway.
Do we have a caller?
We did, but he was dropped. So 860-685-7700, 860-685-7700. The other thing that was in the news is Barcelona. Chris, you've been on fire today, so I'll throw it out to you. What do you think? What is your reaction to what happened in Barcelona?
It's such a scary situation where you have these evil actors, including this cuckoo clock in the U.S. who ran over that poor woman, is that you could take a vehicle and just do such damage. It's just scary because it's not something that you could really effectively defend against. And these people are just insane, and it is just evil through and through. I think, Marty, in Europe, this is the 7th vehicle attack just this year. And It's horrible, and they also strike at the heart of these cities, these historical plazas,
marketplace,
and they do marketplaces during celebrations.
Well, we just need to shift a little bit because we have a caller who's commenting on the Robert E. Lee situation. Caller, are you there?
Hi, I'm curious because they've been refurbishing the Lee Mansion as part in Arlington, Virginia, which is sitting on the land adjacent to the Arlington Cemetery, which is hallowed ground. So if people are going to be attacking, the Lee monuments or Lee, mansions and things like that, what about Arlington National Cemetery?
Well, that's the whole question is when does it end, caller, right? Because, okay, you're offended or someone's offended by Robert E. Lee. Well, you can make a good case of that. What if I'm offended by Ben Franklin? He had some things that I didn't really like about him, and why can't I form a group in Philadelphia to take all the Ben Franklin statues down? Don't you think this could go there?
Where does it end?
Exactly. In fact, in Philly, they're taking down statues of one of their mayors because it offends people, Frank Rizzo.
Right.
So, it's thought police. I think it's thought police. What do you think of that?
Lee didn't actually own slaves. His wife's family did, which was Martha Washington's family. So, you can start going into that, too. Washington didn't own slaves, but his wife's family did.
Woodrow Wilson was a devout racist, anti-black. I think you can pull him off the currency. You can take down, any kind of. Why not just remove him from the history books? I mean,
Right.
Where does it? So you just have a vanilla history that the North was right and these bad people were bad, and that's the end of the chapter because you would never want to offend anyone. Is this where it's going?
Yep, 1984. It's exactly where it's going.
And who is the purveyor of the information? That's what scares me the most. Is who we're taking down these statues, we're doing all these things. So who's in control of what I need to know and what I don't? And who is the filter that filters my little sensitive mind from being offended? I mean, doesn't that scare you? You're talking about 1984?
It's all last. I hate to say it. I'm not. They're screaming down and shoving it down everyone's throat. This is how you should think.
Yeah, so, and having a statue sometimes doesn't say that you're agreeing with everything this person has to say.
Exactly.
You might not even like him, but he or she's an historical figure. I mean, people are complicated. I've never met anyone that is completely have you ever met anyone that completely is 100% lily white?
No.
I mean, has never done anything wrong, never said anything despairingly, never did anything. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to keep friends, let's just say that's your basis for friendship. Then you'll have no friends, correct? Because you only can deal with people that are pure.
But if you try to tell, I was a Bernie supporter. I think Trump should get off Twitter. There's a lot of things I don't agree with him. But, if I try to make a point that is disagreeing with some of my very, very extremely liberal friends, oh boy.
No. I tell you one thing. People on the right don't scare me at all. People on the left scare the heck out of me because they're the thought police. They don't screw around. They'll take you down.
I'm in the center, and I'm scared of the left.
Oh, yeah, I think the left-wing liberalism is the new fascism. I really do believe that. Thought police. Look what happened in Berkeley, like Chris was saying. You had a speaker, I forgot his name, Stephalopoulos, whatever his name is. He's a Greek guy, whatever. Totally harmless. He's not going to beat anyone up. He's not armed. Because he has some ideas you don't agree with, you're going to burn the place down?
Right, and he's actually, a gay person.
Yeah, he's gay.
Yeah. So he's a homosexual, but because he doesn't meet their standards.
Oh no, it's selective. It's selective liking. In other words, if you're gay, welcome into the club. But whoa, you're a conservative gay, not so much.
I worry about our children because they're wiping out all of these things about history, good and bad.
Wait. Speaking of the children, I want you to comment on this. Here's what I think. I don't think anything about the Robert E. Lee statue, okay? That's a debate. I think it is history. I think, when I was in a park and I see a statue, well, maybe I'll read a little bit about Robert E. Lee. He's an interesting person. There's tons of books about him. What I was really a little bit concerned about, you had these 20-somethings ripping down the statue, defaming it, stepping on it, giving it the finger. And I'm thinking, where's the, don't you have other things to be outraged about? I mean, isn't that a little bit peculiar? Like a 20-year-old, freaked out about, go freak out about racism that's happening now. You really going to spend your afternoon, you're that centered and focused on a friggin' statue? Isn't that weird?
Just really quick, I have 20-year-olds, and they're both working. And this happened actually last week. They have to wear polos, this week, Monday. They have to wear polos and khakis as their work uniform. They're both professionally employed. And, my son has had the same haircut for 5 years, which has been in all the fashion magazines for the past 7 years. And his coworker was called a neo-Nazi to his face.
Mm-hmm. But it's a way to shut down debate, because once you label someone a xenophobe, a Nazi, you've ended the discussion. It's very effective.
But how can this young man was just going to work? What's going on here? You can't go to work anymore. You can't.
That's how you shut down alternative thought.
Exactly. So everyone from Target is going to have to quit because, that's the standard uniform is the polo and the chinos. It's gotten that ridiculous.
Chris, do you have a comment? Or?
Well, thank you so much for calling in. And
thank you very much. A great caller.
All right,
Thank you very much. Take care. Yeah, I thought that was a great caller. 860, we don't have that much time left. 860-685-7700. 860-685-7700. Chris, what do you think about the caller saying that she's a little scared? She said scared of the alt-left and their propensity or their drive to shut down alternative thought. Should she be concerned? Do you think that's just...
Yeah, I don't know, scared, like physically scared or just scared at the direction of where the country is going. And I think this is what was rejected in part when Donald Trump was elected. So that's how this battle is playing out, because he's the antithesis of this. He's the anti-establishment disruptor candidate. And, extremists on the left, and for example, are outraged, and they're, every single day you could read politicians. We're not talking about some back alley bad guy. Every day there's politicians that are talking about doing physical harm to Donald Trump.
But do you find it interesting or perplexing that many of these same people or people on the left had the exact same position 20 years ago? Yes. I mean, like Chuck Schumer was for building a wall.
Yes.
I mean, how does that happen?
There's very little intellectual integrity with these things, including we talked about John McCain. I think we did. John McCain ran on, we're going to appeal Obamacare. We're going to repeal Obamacare. And then he votes the other way. Just a few months removed. I
think with him, I think he loves the grandstand.
Yes.
He can't get enough of it, so he likes to be the great orator.
But all of the politicians, the vast majority of politicians in this country are not serving the needs of the American people, left, right, and center. And I am afraid about the direction of the country with the thought police. I have no affinity for Confederate monuments. You want to take them down, that's okay. I just question why now. And I question whether the people that are so passionate about this at this moment aren't being manipulated.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. I think, again, this whole discussion is so weird and just weird. There's no other word for it. I don't really care about Confederate monuments. I don't care about the South.
Me neither.
But it's like people have walked by these things for 20 years and no one even cared. Now it's all of a sudden the first thing, top center of mind.
Like the Baltimore monuments, I think they took 5 away, had to be done right then in the middle of the night with the urgency. That's the thing that I find perplexing. I don't care about the monuments. I've been to Baltimore. I probably never saw the monuments, and if I was in that park, I wouldn't even have noticed them.
Exactly.
And that's probably true for the vast majority of people. Or
take them down and put them in a Confederate graveyard.
Fine, but
which is what they're doing in Tampa, where
I think that's fine.
The 3 professional teams there, the Rays, the Lightning, and the Buccaneers all kicked in to get up to $140,000, along with other donations from individuals, to actually have that happen, to move it from the downtown area outside of the courthouse to the cemetery where, so
there is some proactive way for you, Marty. Is Kaepernick, is he in the league now or is he done?
He's not in the league. He's done technically because he's not been hired, but that it's part of the discussion too. Is he being blackballed because of his stance on the national anthem?
I think he has been blackballed.
Yeah.
I think so.
But with all the quarterbacks going down in camp and during preseason, who's to say?
I mean, I'm a big New York Jet fan, and I know that makes everybody laugh because they're a dumpster fire of a franchise. But Kaepernick is better than any of the quarterbacks the Jets have. I don't even think it's close.
I really, something I really do. I guess I kind of like the Jets, but they've always been like the Plan B of New York. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's like you get the New York Giants, and then it's the Jets. It's like I used to kid a student. I go, they can't even have their own stadium. Essentially they're playing. You know whose stadium it is. It's the
Giants stadium. Yeah, absolutely.
The Jets rent it out. It's like lease a tenant, and that's the end of it. And if you don't pay the rent, you can get the hell out of here.
The other thing that's happening with professional teams is that the Red Sox are also moving to change the name of Yawkey Way. Now, Yawkey family was the original owners, or at least modern owners, of the Red Sox, but because the Red Sox were the last to integrate into Major League Baseball, the current ownership is looking to see if they can't change the name of the Yawkey Way and all the rest of it. So
all right.
It's not just the monuments. There's the affiliations, as you were speaking of earlier, and I guess the ... of how far will it go is yet to be determined.
Yeah, that is.
I would just add,
what
something I think the solution is? No street signs, just Street 1, Street 2, Street 3. No, have numerical going once.
You could throw in some colors too.
Blue, blue, white.
Safe colors, though. You got to be very.
Blue, white that's going north to south, and then you can have letters going east to west.
Yeah.
So it's A Street, the corner of A and blue.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Tom Cruise movie.
There you go. So let's hear what's in the news, Marty.
Well, recently, Mr. Bloomberg, former Mayor Mike Bloomberg from New York City, he's got aspirations. Although at age 75,
he's got Asperger's
aspirations. I'm sure that at age 75, he's the presidency's perhaps out of his reach. But being as wealthy as he is,
good.
And he's just offered a $200 million program called the American Cities Initiative. And if you guys recall, one of the things that I talked about in terms of a New Year's resolution was that municipalities were going to be the focus point of growth. And this $250 million program initiative is to support local communities, local governments, mayors particularly, to address issues such as climate change, gun violence, public health, immigration, all the things that the federal government doesn't seem to be able to work with. So I thought that was interesting that in the private sector, they're trying to do something about it. I don't know how excited you guys are about Monday's eclipse, the American eclipse, but the Connecticut region, our Hartford region area here, is going to have about a 70% totality. And as I was looking at weather across the nation, I guess the focus point is out in Carbondale, Illinois, at southern Illinois, and it's supposed to be cloudy.
Aww.
It's supposed to be cloudy.
Well,
we've got a beautiful day.
Real quick, do we have a caller? Just one
awesome.
Squeeze him in.
Go ahead. What do you
Caller.
say?
Hi. Hello, guys. How you doing?
Good. What's up? Real quick.
Yeah, I'm calling from Bloomfield, Connecticut. And to me, the issue with statues and symbols, my thing is that, we have bigger fish to fry. I mean, to take down statues and symbols and flags.
I would agree. I mean, in other words, focus on things that are going on now, and and if you're really that offended, I really don't know what to tell you. I mean, not you, but if someone is that offended by a Robert E. Lee statue, I don't understand.
Like that thing, like that thing about the young man who was cursing at the Robert E. Lee statue and all this, like he's so hell-bent in such a student on the Civil War and that part of history. Yeah,
so outraged.
Exactly.
Outrage is something that happened now, but please, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
And it's not just the monuments. What about these presidential councils that everybody started to look at bailing out, and then he said, well, I'm just going to cancel them. Sorry for your time.
Yeah, that's for another show, but that boggles my mind,
too. Let's go into buzzwords.
Okay, well, that was one of them, my presidential councils. How about these magazine covers that this month are showing the president in a light of very much associated with the KKK?
Yeah, I think it's patently unfair, and I think it's likely to boomerang because I think he's being unfairly tarnished. There's lots to criticize this president about, but we went from he's a Russian stooge to now he's a Nazi. It's crazy.
No, Chris, I have to agree with you. It's like now they're in the boardroom. They're all talking the same. They go, all right, the Russian thing didn't work. This Nazi thing's got legs.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
How about Elvis Presley? It's been 40 years since his death.
He was the king, baby.
Have you ever tried one of his famous sandwiches, the fried peanut butter, bacon, and banana?
Not lately.
It's a grilled cheese sandwich, man. You got to try it. It's delicious.
You've had one?
I've made one. Yeah, it's awesome.
You have lived
I'm
a
out
life.
there, man. I'm on the fringe. How about this idea of sorting, where families are now looking in terms of real estate? They want to move where they're of like thought. This idea of sorting.
That's the kind of country we're living in.
Yeah.
Two more.
But I think that's always happened. You know, when the Italians came over, they went to the Italian neighborhood of New York. When the Germans came, they went to the German section.
Last one. Go ahead.
How about path? Okay, we have that poll numbers. These poll numbers that people keep talking about, 30%, 20%.
You better get close to 40. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for the great show. Thank our listeners. Thank our callers. We'll be back next week with another exciting